Welcome to Shorty Supercoach and welcome to Shorty Say. I just wanted to have a chat about Bomber Thompson today. Obviously he's in the courts, charged with drugs trafficking and possession of drugs and a whole host of offences and things like that, and clearly Bomber's world has gotten to a pretty dark place at the moment, and obviously as a Geelong man and even a football person, it's sad to see such a figure like this in a position that he is, but it does make the mind wonder as to how someone does get themselves into this sort of position. And I think, you know, for me it was quite shocking first a few months ago when we saw all that talk about bikies in his warehouse and all this and that, and all of a sudden you go, gee, where there's smoke there's fire sort of thing, and you kind of hope that it isn't true, or he doesn't have a big part to play in what is clearly some dark activity. But then it comes out and it sort of affirms everything that you really hoped might have been false. But I sort of compare it in a way, and they're totally different things, but I spoke about not long ago the ball tampering with the Australian cricket team, and I think for a lot of people, if you don't follow it closely, if you don't know the people involved, all of a sudden you see a cricket team and all of a sudden they're cheating and ball tampering. Unbelievable stuff. But in the background is all this turn of events and sequence of events that is really just a spiralling out of control of their life, and we don't necessarily see it in the public venue, but it's not like they go from cricket team to cheats and things like that. It's not like Bomber's gone from football man to drug trafficking crazy man. You know, clearly there have been a lot of events that have triggered it, and I think the supplement saga is something that he's just never really been able to come to grips with or deal with or put behind him. It's very, very difficult for him in that fashion. I do want to stress there's two parts of how I'm feeling. One is sympathy for the man and where he's at, and such disappointment and shock in a guy that I have really admired and loved as a coach, a premiership coach of Geelong. You know, he even played a massive role in bringing about such happiness for many Geelong fans. But then there's the other part where he's just a man, a person like anyone else, who's stuffed up and needs to cop his right whack. So I think we can't overlook that he's, you know, he's breaking the law, he's doing some really bad things, and I think above all we hope that he gets his life right, whether he spends some time in jail, whether he does this or that. You just hope at some point he can be happy again and get his life on the rails. But in the meantime, he needs to be sentenced or handed whatever he needs to be handed to. That's for the courts, of course, and he needs to cop his right whack, because he's done a lot wrong, not only dabbling in those drugs, but also selling it and dealing it to people, and, you know, I guess playing a real role in other people's lives going down the toilet. So that's quite sad, and I do find it just astonishing how it can get to such a drastic point, and you sort of hope that you got to hit rock bottom to maybe turn it around, and seemingly this would be rock bottom for Bomber Thompson. And my initial thought was, I'm sort of just brainstorming here verbally, but, you know, my initial thought was, how do you get into that? Because there's a lot of things people can get into and things like that, but I would have thought doing this sort of activity would be, the trafficking in particular, would be to make money if you were short on cash. Now, last time I knew, Bomber Thompson owned about half of Armstrong Creek down in Geelong. He was a property millionaire. They used to joke about it on 360. So I'm not sure whether, you know, maybe his life goes out of control and all of a sudden he gets on the drugs and then he wastes all his money and, you know, makes poor decisions. All of a sudden he finds himself in those circles and needs to get money. You know, maybe you find yourself in a weak moment when a lot of things aren't going your way in life and you've found yourself in a pretty dark place. I guess those weak moments become certain times where you can be led astray and you can make bad choices because you're weak of mind. You feel like you might be, you know, needing to do something so far out of the ordinary to turn your life around. I'm just guessing here, but that would be seemingly what has happened. So unbelievable scenes. It was sad for me to watch on. You know, you look at Bomber, and I think we've all loved what Bomber has brought, not only to football. You know, he played an attacking and coached an attacking brand of football. You know, that was his mantra as a coach. He wanted to have a good look for the game and, you know, really saved footy at times when the Swans and Eagles and Crows were playing boring football. The Cats of '07 made it exciting. And on a media sense, he was always insightful. sometimes very quirky, very left of centre, but always entertaining. And I was listening to SEN today, some really good insights from Andy Marr, how he felt there were two Bombers that we've maybe only seen one of, but there's definitely two sides of Bomber, and the one we've seen we love watching him. He's a quirky character, great to get along with, be around. But the other one is this guy who's got himself riddled and caught up in what is an extremely bad part of the world and society that really you don't want to be getting involved with those sort of people, and you don't want your life heading there because it's tough to get out to or get out of. And once you're involved in that, then all of a sudden, you know, it's addiction, it's drugs, it's money, it's, you know, do worse to get more and do this to get by, and you're all of a sudden, you know, going one step further each time almost to make up for what you've done previous. So that is, you know, a couple of sides of Bomber. And an interesting article in The Age, I think it was, from Peter Ryan, I believe, when it all sort of came out with Bomber and initially with the raids on his warehouse and things like that. And the gist of the article was Bomber Thompson is a football man without football. So I guess what do you take from that is he's pretty lost sort of a man. And you see a lot of people, ex-footballers, ex-coaches, guys who have been involved in footy for their whole life. You know, their whole adult life has been football. And you see them leave that and maybe they don't have much else. Maybe it just loses and takes away this enormous part of their life and they don't know where to turn. And I think we're all human, and at times when you don't know where to turn, you feel a bit lost. We are susceptible to making some pretty shitty decisions, and you find yourself all of a sudden you just make one exception to maybe some life rules you might have. It's just bugger it, I'm this, I'm that, I'm having a rough time, but I'll do this. And all of a sudden that's just step one into what is, you know, a spiralling staircase of your life just going out of control. So that's all I can really imagine what has happened, but it's some really interesting stuff listening to, and clearly the supplement saga has triggered it in some way, shape or form. And my main thought, you know, he'll cop whatever he should cop. Whatever they feel fit that he should go to jail for or be fined or whatever it is, I'm not really around that. Then do it. I'm not going to be concerned with whatever whack he cops. I'm not trying to defend or hope that he gets a lenient sentence or anything like that. Whatever he cops, so be it. Deal with it. You've done the wrong thing. But my overriding sense and emotion is I hope at some point he can get back on the rails, and I hope next year when Geelong have their 10-year anniversary of the 2009 Grand Final Premiership, I hope he can be sitting around having a beer with the boys and getting his life back in control. Again, he might be behind bars at that point, who knows, but let's just hope at some stage his life can get back where it should be, and you hope that he is alive in a few years. I mean, that's pretty brutal, but James Hird nearly lost his life as well with what of all the pressure and the mental strain that the supplement saga and the media and everything, the scrutiny that comes with it, had on him. It almost led to him trying to take his life. And look, you just hope that above all, you know, you'll get the keyboard warriors and the crazy people texting and posting, just, you know, calling for his head, you know, they're hating on him. But sometimes you just got to step back and actually have some empathy as a fellow human. And look, he's stuffed up. But I think above all, I think once someone cops their punishment, then you just go, okay, get through your punishment. You've copped that. Let's try and reinvent you and get you back to who you really are. Because everyone who talks about Bomber and knows him says he's a great person who's made some really bad choices and had a pretty bad 5 to 6 years, whatever it is. It hasn't been a great time in Bomber's life, but he's not a bad person. There's a lot of shit people out there. There's a lot of bad people that really almost deliberately make bad decisions and don't have other people's best interests at heart and burn people and hurt people to get their own way in life. I don't think Bomber's one of those people. By all reports, he's a good person who's found himself in a really bad situation. So hopefully he can get back to that identity of Bomber that we all know, and that is a good person. And I think, you know, football is obviously a massive part of his life. James Hird, likewise, he's found himself back in a football club. Maybe Bomber, in some way, shape or form, if he can get back to some normality, needs to find himself in a football setting and club or what have you. So that's where I'm at with him. Extremely disappointing, as I have said, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. It'd be very interesting to see, and look, we'll certainly wait this one out and see how it all pans out. But yeah, a crazy turn of events. As I said, comment away, let me know your thoughts. I'll be back later in the week talking a bit of Supercoach, also covering the AFL game in Ballarat, so I'll look to take a bit of footage there and hopefully put together a little bit of a video. First AFL game I've covered, so that's exciting. And yeah, obviously the Q&A as well. By the looks of it, Thursday night I'll look to attend to a couple of videos. I'll be back in Geelong, so I'll look to get stuck into that with a bit of time off. So yeah, you can expect a Q&A maybe Thursday night, a bit late I'd say, or maybe Friday morning. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I appreciate your comments and having a listen in. Thanks.